Hey guys, Shane here. So I am super excited for the premiere of the fightTIPS podcast. My good friend and co-host Marcus Koval and I have been working very hard on H.U.M.A.N, or Humanity's United Martial Arts Network. We dive deep into martial arts culture, focusing specifically on how you can take the skills learned and apply that to your everyday life. Like how to develop mental fortitude and discipline, how to deal with stress and anxiety, and ultimately how to harness that champion mindset so that you can achieve greatness. Now, we've already recorded a bunch of episodes with some amazing guests, like Michelle Waterson, Kenny Florian, and you're going to dig this first episode with history professor Daniele Bolelli, where we talk about just that, the history of martial arts. Did you know that in like the mid-1800s, when guns were introduced at war, many people in Japan completely abandoned training martial arts? They didn't think it was worth it. That was until the founder of Judo completely revitalized martial arts in Japan. So, we're going to be uploading clips to our YouTube channel, and if you want to listen to the full episode, the links will be in the description below. But until then, better yourself, better the world. Enjoy. What's up, everybody? Welcome to H.U.M.A.N, Humanity's United Martial Arts Network. I'm Shane Fazen, joined by my co-host here, my very good friend, probably the toughest guy I know, mentally and physically, Marcus Koval.
Thank you.
And very excited for our special guest today. For the first episode, not only a martial artist himself, but a history professor, an author of multiple books, host of very successful podcasts, including History on Fire, Daniele Bolelli. How are you, sir?
Good, man. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, very excited. And I just want to say first, I think I'm very excited to have you as our first guest simply because of your accent. I think people are going to hear this. And
What
Like,
accent?
this is very professional. Who is it? And you just have a very wise sound about it.
What accent?
What, exactly.
I could pass for like straight out of Kansas, right?
Do you have any questions from any
so we
people?
went live on Instagram Live for the people who are watching after the fact. We got a couple questions, a little vague, but in the realm of history. People were asking, and I think we answered this one already, the same theory that we have a common ancestor, Pangea. Mm-hmm. Is there a common martial art that we've all trained? But I think biomechanics. And
I think it's biomechanics.
Yeah.
I mean, there has been more exchanges over time than I think we're given credit for. I think the world was not as separated as we think, when like Alexander the Great invades a big chunk of Asia. And you're going to have, Greeks practicing pancration, bringing their stuff, being in contact with people from India with their native traditions, some of that stuff. Now, is it a 1-to-1 ratio where this thing is passed exactly as? No. But has there been a lot of exchanges? For sure.
I love that. Another question was, what effects have martial arts had on cultures throughout history?
Oh, interesting.
I think cultures, change martial arts. I'm actually working right now on a series on Jigorō Kanō, the creator of Judo, the founder of Judo, right? And one of the things that happened with him is that I really think that martial arts as we practice them today would not exist if it was for Kanō. Oh. Because what happens is in Japan of the late 1800s, the popularity of martial arts is collapsing. Nobody wants to practice because there are guns now. They just got their ass kicked by the Americans showing up, saying, open up your ports or we'll destroy you. And these guys still have the samurai and they're going against cannons. It's not going to go well. Huh. So most people are abandoning the practice of traditional martial arts. Jiu-jitsu itself is seen as the pastime of thugs who just want to learn how to break somebody's arm, but they are Yakuza guys and no respectable person should be training martial arts. Because
what year is this?
This is like the Americans coming into Japan was 1853. Okay. So the time between the next 3 decades or so is a period in which Japan goes super modern very fast. They go from this feudal society based on farming to being a modern power over the span of 30 years. As that's happening, they are throwing away most of their traditional culture, including martial arts. Wow. And Kanō comes along, and he's kind of a nerdy guy. And he's almost the stereotype of like the Karate Kid story, right? Like weak guy who gets bullied a lot and so wants to train martial arts, is empowered by it, he loves it, and he wants it to make it a legitimate thing that people are still into. right? But you cannot train it the way you did before because the world has changed. People have guns. It doesn't work the same way. And so Kanō invents this new model where it's like, no, you guys all misunderstood. This is not just about fighting. It's about becoming a better human being. And he's like, how exactly training to choke each other out is supposed to make you a better human being? Is like, yeah, you guys all got it wrong. And he's creating this whole rationale to adapt martial arts so that it has a function in a world in which you're not going to fight with jiu-jitsu a war. That's not the way it's going to happen. And so in doing that, he creates a new function for martial arts, a new purpose for it in a way that people dig. And so in that sense, is a way in which culture can change the meaning of a martial art. So it's not just how martial arts change the culture, it's also how the culture changed martial arts over time. And, he creates the belt system. He creates all these things that are like the structure of modern martial arts is because Kanō wants it to still make it relevant at a time when everybody thinks this is anachronistic, this needs to go.
Well, I have to say, I think he made it what it should be, which is even more important than being able to fight with martial arts,
right?
As we know, and the whole purpose of this podcast, which is how martial arts can actually help you even without having to get into a fight. One thing that you just said there with the belt system, I had learned, I don't remember from where, and I've even taught this to our students, that the belt system was invented because everyone got a white belt, and then over time it got dirtier and dirtier, and a master had a black belt because it was proof that belt had gotten so dirty over time.
Yeah, I heard that a lot. I don't know. I mean, what I did read about Kanō was that they say he borrowed the idea of a ranking system from actually Japanese Go, the like chess type of game, that they had a ranking system. And he was like, oh, we should have that for Judo too. And so he started this system of like 3 beginner rank, 3 advanced rank, and that was it, right? And then like a couple of years into it, after he gives his first couple of guys their first dan, he's like, you know what? Let's make that belt black. Let's signify something different when you step on the mat. And so you had a couple of his guys who were really the first black belts ever in that sense.
Wow.
Now, is it possible that that was why? He's like, well, if you train long enough, your belt is progressively darker color and it doesn't look as new. So yeah, we should make it the black. Who knows, right? It's hard to tell. But
at what point does it become purple?
Right, exactly.
Red. Yeah,
red is probably the blood. Yes.
Green is mold.
Right.
You forgot to dry it properly. You shouldn't wash your belt.
That's when staff, green belts is straight up staff.
So, as a martial artist, as a professor, what's something that you could recommend people that might not be that involved in martial arts, or even if they are, what's one thing that you feel that martial art has given you as an academic, as a professor, that schooling perhaps can't give you, or life can give you, but maybe in a difficult to find it in life?
I think the fact that you have such immediate feedback on whether stuff is working or not, on whether you are any good or not. The sense of worth that you get from martial arts is different from the sense of worth that you get from other activities. Because so many, like to me, somebody praising my intellectual skills, I'm like, that doesn't mean shit to me. Because it's like, that's an opinion, it's not a proven fact in a way that's being able to KO the next guys, it's like, that's a fact. These other stuff are educated opinions. They are not. And to me, it's like, it creates, usually, there are plenty of exceptions to that, but it can create a healthy relationship with your ego. Because on one end, you do get a measure of self-worth. It's like, hey, I started from here, and look at where I'm at now. I'm way better than where I started. And look, there are the people who start just where I was, and now I'm on top of the game. I win, quote unquote. I'm better. I work hard and I got results. At the same time, pretty much any single day, there's going to be somebody who's going to kick your ass. It's like, yeah, still, so it keeps it in perspective. It's like, you can't get too big of a head because there's always a guy who's better than you. It's like, you can be the best fighter in the world. and you have no guarantee that you're going to win the next fight. You know, it's like there's always a guy who's coming up who's like, and vice versa, you can't be too down on yourself because you see how hard work has made you better over time. So it gives you a realistic assessment of who you are, where you're at, how much hard work has paid off, and how much you can still don't get too ahead of yourself because there's room for improvement.
To answer your question, though, Marcus, and that was awesome, but I feel like there's so many different styles of martial arts that people should do some research. People should dabble, because whether you're old, young, big or small, there's different levels of intensity of martial arts that you can train, even if it's just Tai Chi. And even I could even group yoga into martial arts. Something where you're going to be around other people, where you're going to be challenging yourself, where ego is instantly smashed when you walk in the door. I think it's the healthiest thing for human beings is martial arts.
Agree.
That
was great.
I think this. I'm pumped. I'm like already thinking of how I'm going to market this. First episode, we had the best guest on. Thank you so much, Daniele.
Thank you, guys.
This is fun. Appreciate. This was really good. We talked about all the points that I wanted to hit. We briefly talked about samurai. I was hoping the word samurai would at least come up in that podcast. And it did. We talked about destroying the ego. Man, this was great. Thank you again so much.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Daniele. And for anyone that wants to find out more about you, Daniele, where can they find you?
Google is nice to people, so it's like if you can figure out how to spell my weird name, which I'm assuming you put in some episode notes or something, that you Google it and you will, whether it's my podcast, whether it's books, whether it's anything else, internet is your friend.
Yeah, check out his podcast, History on Fire. That's your most popular, right? But you're doing
see one here too.
This one is Drunken Taoist. Yeah, this is, speaking of multitasking, here is a shirt with the hero of our story is making out with this woman while drinking wine and kicking a guy in the balls who's coming to attack him. So that's some good multitasking. I'm going to take a picture.
I'm going to make that the thumbnail of this video.
Right.
And one last thing that, by the way, if you read, which you should, it's a good thing to do. His books are very, very good, and Not Afraid is something you don't have to have experienced loss to find motivation from the books. I highly recommend it. And me and Shane spoke about this. You're a teacher. We need some homework. If you can recommend people to do one thing, what would that be?
In life, anything.
Maybe a challenge then, something that they can do in the next week.
Okay, let me think. That's a good one, and I don't want to give you a bullshit answer. So let me think for 10 seconds about.
Everyone can meditate during these 10 seconds.
Okay, one thing that I find key in interpersonal relationships, like a lot of people do it, me included, I'm sure I've done it plenty of times. Sometimes even with loved ones, even with people you're close to, take a snarky tone because it's like, oh, I'm just joking, I'm just playing. But you see those relationships where people are constantly putting each other down in a fun way. And it's like, no, ultimately it's not that fun. Ultimately you're constantly kind of nipping at each other in a weird way that's like, to me, in terms of communication, the people you choose to have in your life, that you choose to be close to, that you want, then you should be ridiculously nice to them. 99% of the time. Then you earned making a joke once in a while, but 99% of the time being physically affectionate, letting people know that you care about them, telling them in whatever way comes natural, letting them know how much they are appreciated. Like, I don't get tired, my daughter, my girlfriend, people I'm close to, I'm like, I want to let them, and it's not that, it's like you've heard it like already 6 times today, so it's not that you really need to know it, but it's like it's a way to pass energy to me. So it's like letting the people in your life know how much they mean to you, how much you appreciate them, how much you value them. Everybody struggles with self-esteem issues. So having from somebody else the feedback that you mean a lot to them, that you are good to them, that you know them, you see them for their limitations, for their good stuff, and you still think they are awesome. That stuff is huge. So I think that's homework for the day.
I love it. There you guys go. For those of you listening, for the next week, hopefully it'll continue past just a week, but physically tell the people that you love them. I love that. All right, let's wrap it up. Daniele, thank you so much for coming on. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Guys, if you're listening, check him out. Links will be in the description below.
Thanks, man.